Ser versus estar. Two verbs that could be problematic. You could really confuse somebody if you don't know what you're doing. Let's take a look. Both ser and estar mean to be. And they're both irregular conjugations in Spanish. And that's about all they have in common. Everything else is completely opposite. So these two verbs aren't to be used for the same situations. And to help you out, I've provided two helpful acronyms that will help you solve the mystery of when to use each verb. First off, the conjugations that are irregular. You have soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. And I always tell my students, if you can say these with your eyes closed, say them 5 times in a row without messing up, you're where you need to be. So practice. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. When do we use ser? I always like to think about a guy named Todd. Todd stands for time, origin, date, and description. Alright, so using ser with time. You'll notice in the question, ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? The verb ser is used. So in the answer you would also use it. Es la una or son las dos. Have you ever thought about why there are two ways to say what time it is? Es la una and son las dos. Maybe you remember that in Spanish, gender and number have a lot to do with everything, with nouns and adjectives and verbs. We're talking about singular and plural. Well, there's only one singular hour on the clock, and that hour is 1. So, where's my cursor? Here it is. So, es la una. Una is 1, so you have to use a singular form. Dos, all the way to doce, call for the use of son. Next, origin. So, when you have a subject followed by ser, then de, and a place, you're telling about origin, where someone is from, not where they're at, but where they are from, something that does not change. So the question, ¿de dónde eres? ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from? Yo soy de Georgia. Soy de tells where you're from, that tells your origin. Soy is used with origin. Next, the date. ¿Cuál es la fecha? ¿Cuál es la fecha? Hoy es el 13 de marzo. Es is used with date. Description. This is where you start off in Spanish 1, over and over and over, describing everyone, including yourself. So, ella es Mariana. Mis amigos son inteligentes. El libro es de mi hermano. Descriptions are things that don't change. Okay, so a condition is something that changes. For example, your mood, if you're happy or you're sad, your emotions, those change. But descriptions, what you look like, what type of person you are, those are things that are expected to stay the same, and that's why we use ser. Alright, looking at estar. Conjugations are a little irregular. You'll notice, for example, just like ser, the ending is oy, so you have estoy, and then you notice that everything else appears to be regular except for the accent marks. Remember that accent marks are placed on every form except for nosotros and vosotros, but accent marks tell you how to pronounce the word. So for example, if you were to remove the accent mark from estás, if you get rid of it, now the word is estas. Estas means these. And instead of está, if you move the accent mark, remove it, you have esta, which means this. Okay, so it changes the word meaning completely. So the conjugations are estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. When to use estar. Tar is for ser, loco is for estar. Local stands for location and condition. Okay, location tells where you're at. Condition tells about your feelings, your emotions, and things that are temporary. Okay, not things that stay the same day after day. A temporary condition would be, for example, a door. The door is open. The door is closed. Okay, location. ¿Dónde estás tú? Estoy en la escuela ahora. Notice we're using donde, but it's not asking where you're from. We don't have the word de. In the answer, we're not saying I am from Georgia, soy de Georgia. we're using estoy en. En tells where you're located. De tells where you're from. Estoy en la escuela. Condition. ¿Cómo están ustedes? Estamos muy contentos. So, ¿cómo están? Asks how you're feeling. ¿Cómo son? Asks what you're like. ¿Cómo están ustedes? Okay, that was really quick. That's about it. But let's see what you can do here. 1 through 6. Let's see if you can get the correct verb and conjugation for either ser or estar. So pause your video, and when you get 1 through 6, push play. Alright, here are our answers. Number 1, you have somos. Nosotros somos de los Estados Unidos. You'll notice that de tells origin. Origin uses ser. Nosotros somos. Número 2, estoy. Yo estoy muy triste. Triste, remember, is sad. That's an emotion. Location, condition, use estar. Estoy. 3 is son. Ahora son las 3:30. We're telling what time it is here. Todd, time, origin, date, description. 4, están. Ellos están en la sala de clase. En tells where someone is located, tells where they're at. So están. 5 is es. Hoy es el 5 de mayo. We're talking about date, time, origin, date, description, use ser. Y el 6. Yo soy un alumno trabajador. I'm a hard-working student. That's something that is not expected to change. That's a description. Maybe you have an off day where you're sick, you're feeling kind of lazy or tired, but the next day you're right back on it. So a description, something that is expected to stay the same, uses ser, whereas number 2, an emotion, is expected to change. So in that case you would use estar. Es todo. Adiós.